South Korea's National Intelligence Service has drafted a detailed report on the latest developments in North Korea's domestic politics. The agency says there's been a reshuffle in the upper rankings of North Korea's leadership, with some gaining greater power and others losing status. The shakeup comes at a critical time, just ahead of major diplomatic events on the calendar this week. Today, we go in-depth on the implications of Pyongyang's political reshuffle with Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. It's always good to have you with us.
Very pleased to be here again.
Now, Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo Jong, she was basically everywhere Kim Jong-un went, from Pyeongyang to Singapore to Hanoi. But her public appearance has been absent for quite a while. But according to the NIS report, her status seems to have risen in the regime's power structure. How do you assess her current political status?
This is another power consolidation step taken by Kim Jong-un because it is very important, essential for supreme leadership of North Korea to emphasize the right heritage as offsprings of the Mountain Paektu royal bloodline. But Kim Jong-un's real birth mother emigrated from Jeju Island to Japan, then North Korea. So Kim Jong-un cannot really portray himself as a legitimate leader who inherited the spirit of the Mountain Paektu from the great leader, the first leader Kim Il-sung, because Kim Jong-un's grandfather did not recognize current leader Kim Jong-un's mother as a legitimate daughter-in-law. So there is a kind of a personal stigma when it comes to the emphasis on the inheritance of the right bloodline. So in order to compensate for that, the absence of his birth mother to be worshipped and respected as a mother of the entire nation, it is important for Kim Jong-un to promote the stature of his only sister, Kim Yo Jong. And Kim Jong-un really wants to have somebody that he can unconditionally trust, and that only leaves Kim Yo Jong as the candidate. Imagine yourself as a Kim Yo Jong and Kim Jong-un living away from the homeland, not knowing about their future. In the context of the possible domestic succession struggle in Switzerland, only 2 of them as a brother and sister. So you can imagine how much trust and faith both of them must have for each other.
Some interesting history about Kim Jong-un's family tree there. What kind of role do you expect Kim Yo Jong to play in future inter-Korean relations or possibly future U.S.-North Korea talks?
What is known to everyone by now, since the inauguration of Kim Jong-un era, at least in 2011, is that Kim Yo Jong must be the only person who can talk about anything and everything to the supreme leader, Mr. Kim Jong-un, without the fear of political execution. And Kim Jong-un allows Kim Yo Jong to play that role. So as a messenger, as a mediator between North Korean leadership and the outside world, Kim Jong-un will continue to play a very important role as a spokesperson of the entire country. But the promotion of Kim Yo Jong in an official capacity concerns me as a watcher of North Korea. Because Kim Yo Jong, although she commands utmost trust and faith by her brother, who happens to be the supreme leader of North Korea, lacks any notable experience and expertise on foreign policies. So if your goal is denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula or establishment of irreversible and lasting peace regime in place of the Armistice Agreement of 1953 that suspended the Korean War, or forging diplomatic normalization between North Korea and the United States, or North Korea and Japan, Kim Yo Jong lacks the expertise. So the sign that Kim Jong-un is increasingly dependent upon Kim Yo Jong, his sister, does not seem to indicate that Kim Jong-un is well surrounded by the right kind of experts and seasoned diplomats and government officials.
So she will play quite an important role, but her lack of experience is quite concerning. Now, President Xi Jinping visited North Korea last week, and when welcoming President Xi at Pyongyang's Sunan International Airport, the arranged position of North Korea's high-ranking officials grabbed much attention. And the NIS report says Pyongyang's top nuclear negotiator, Yong Chol, who also serves as vice chairman of the Workers' Party Central Committee, was positioned behind Foreign Minister Lee Yong-ho, possibly signaling a demotion. How do you analyze that?
Well, demotion might have been made for Kim Yong-chol, but it might be just a necessary reshuffling of the team in preparation of upcoming negotiations with the United States. Not necessarily, outright political purge of Kim Yong-chol for the failed negotiations in Hanoi with the United States. We have to wait and see who is going to be the counterpart for the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea, Mr. Stephen Biegun. If it will be members of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, such as Madam Choi Sun-hee or somebody equivalent to her, then we can say that North Korea is going to be more serious about working level negotiations with the United States on denuclearization, because Mr. Kim Yong-chol's expertise is not non-proliferation or any technical or scientific details about moving forward toward the denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. His expertise is to deny North Korea's accountability or involvement in provocations toward other countries, including South Korea. So he is really good at denying North Korea's responsibilities and justifying North Korea's provocative actions, but not really the right person to negotiate on the in and out of very complicated aspects of denuclearization process.
Interesting point to note is that there was no joint declaration or signing of a joint agreement following Kim Jong-un Xi Jinping summit. And to this, some believe that the two failed to reach an agreement on key issues. Your thoughts?
I agree with that analysis, but at the same time, reaching a very tight agreement in the form of joint statement may not have been the mutual goal in the first place for Kim Jong-un and Xi Jinping. I guess the main focus of this state visit by Chinese President Xi Jinping to Pyongyang is to make sure that China is going to be the main player, playing the constructive and the active role in mediating between North Korea and the United States. Because judging from the statement issued by the Foreign Ministry of China prior to actual state visit of Mr. Xi Jinping to Pyongyang, it was announced very clearly that the goal of this state visit by Xi Jinping is not only to confirm and consolidate the bilateral partnership between China and North Korea, but also prepare for the political solutions, progressive political solutions for all the problems related to the situations on the Korean Peninsula. So the main goal for this visit by Xi Jinping is not just to assure the bilateral partnership with North Korea, but to confirm that China is the country to be counted on when it comes to everything related to Northeast Asian region and the Pacific.
Now, while speculations are mounting over the content of the personal letters exchanged between President Trump and Kim Jong-un, KBS News reported that in his reply to Kim, Trump suggested holding working-level talks to find a middle ground. How do you interpret this report? Could Trump possibly be shifting from his FFVD policy?
No, why it should be interpreted as a compromise on the insistence upon full, final and fully verified denuclearization of North Korea if the letter sent by President Trump emphasized the resumption of working level negotiations. You can stay with the same goal, which is FFVD, but the method or road to the goal can be the working level negotiations as opposed to top-down approach, which failed in Hanoi. So I don't think there is any major shift of goal from FFDD when it comes to Trump administration's approach to North Korea. Only the method has been emphasized to be working level negotiations, which have been largely dismissed by Pyongyang. And it is very important that South Korean President Moon Jae-in also emphasized the need for the resumption of not just a top-level negotiation and dialogue, but also working-level negotiation between Washington and Pyongyang. So there is a consensus, at least, between Washington and Seoul about the necessity of resumption of not just a top-level negotiation dialogue, exchange of letters in big white envelope carried by Mr. Kim Yong Chol, but something very specific, something very step-by-step and pragmatic.
President Trump told reporters early this morning that the U.S. will hold talks with North Korea, quote, at some point, and that he and Kim Jong-un are getting along very well. How do you interpret these remarks?
Well, at some point, there's a line made by Al Pacino, who played a role as a blind former Navy in the movie Scent of Women, that some people live the entire life in a minute, but some people live life more than eternity. So at some point by President Trump may mean 10 days, 10 years, never, who knows. The important point is that President Trump is open to having another summit meeting with Supreme Leader of North Korea, but it is a matter of time, physical time or timeline, but it's a matter of North Korea making the right kind of proposal. So it's a conditional affirmation of willingness on the part of the United States to have another summit meeting with leadership of North Korea. It's not a matter of that will be decided by sheer force of physical passage of time.
It appears the need for working level talks are resurfacing recently. Does this indicate that both Pyongyang and Washington are now ready to be more flexible, now ready to make some concessions that are necessary?
North Korea has already made a concession, which is seemingly gearing toward the working level negotiations with the United States. As I said before, that Pyongyang's position has been persistent. We don't really count on working level negotiations. Important things had to be decided at the level of top leaderships. So if you are working level government officials, step aside. Important deals, denuclearization, a peace regime, ending hostility since the Korean War, these are matters that are only be decided by supreme leadership and the President of the United States. So in that regard, that yes, it's a demonstration of a reasonable amount of change and flexibility on the part of North Korea.
The South Korea-U.S. summit will also be held this Sunday, but concerns are rising over South Korea's diminishing role in North Korea's denuclearization following recent developments among regional players. What do you say to that?
Well, I understand the concern because the Moon Jae-in government has invested so much effort in order to prevent the exacerbation of the security conditions on the Korean Peninsula with a series of provocations by North Korea in the latter part of the 2017, and to seize the opportunities for major breakthroughs and dialogues between North Korea and the United States as a mediator. It seems like after President Xi Jinping's visit to Pyongyang, the role as a mediator or booster will be taken mostly by China, not South Korea. But let me tell you this. As long as the bus is moving in the right direction, you don't have to insist that you will remain the driver of the bus. Maybe it's better for South Korean leadership to be relaxing in the backseat and enjoying the ride, moving in the right direction. So I don't think there's any urgent political reasons for Moon Jae-in government to hold on to the notion that South Korea has to be the mediator between North Korea and the rest of the world, as long as the situation are moving in the right direction and the prospect for the outcomes of the negotiations that involves North Korea is a kind of a result that will benefit South Korea as well.
Major diplomatic events are set to take place this week. Let's see how things unfold. Thank you, Dr. Bong.
You're welcome.
And that does it for this edition of News in Depth. From all of us here at Arirang, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you right back here, same time tomorrow.